Welcome everyone to a very special episode of Chat, Grapple and Cheap Pops podcast. I am Chris Dredd, here with my main man JB. Even though he's wearing the Arsenal shirt this week, still got to respect him, still got to acknowledge him, you know what I mean? And to be fair, that was one of the tightest shirts that was ever released, the old bruised banana.
That's a banger of a shirt, absolute
you know
banger.
I mean?
Yeah.
Bangaroony, bruv. That era for football shirts was just fucking off the heezy.
Golden.
Bruv.
Absolutely golden.
But yeah, we've got a great guest today. Some may say controversial. This could be possibly one of our most fieriest interviews yet. Who knows?
Could well be. Earlier on, I had it in my head. He courts controversy, willingly or unwillingly, like Sammy Guevara courts women or engagements. Yeah.
Fucking hell, mate.
This could be fun.
This could be fun. So without further ado, let's crack on with it. I am Chris Dredd, my main man JB. This is Chat, Grapple and Cheap Pops podcast. And here is our amazing guest. Welcome everyone to this very special episode of Chat, Grapple and Cheap Pops podcast. I am Chris Dredd, here with my main man JB, and we have got a very, very special guest on today. He is possibly one of the most controversial figures in wrestling podcasts, I would say. He's a fucking fellow Brit. We love him. You might know him from the Wrestling Informer on Keeping It 100. Also, you might know him from lockbetting.com. And also, if you're as old as we are, you might remember him from Big Brother. He is our man, Billi Bhatti. Thanks for joining us, Bill, man.
No problems. No worries, guys. Thanks for having me.
All good, mate. I mean, you are, I think it's fair to say, you don't really care about upsetting people in the wrestling podcast dirt sheet kind of realm. If anything, you kind of revel in it a little bit. Would that be correct to say? You kind of enjoy pissing them off a bit?
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't have any real criticism from people that I wouldn't have real criticism of people that try to do this as their main job. And if they have to shut up and sort of toe the line a little bit, like I understand that. For me, there's more creative freedom because this is not my main source of income. My main source of income comes from doing the work at Lock Betting and the Sports Gambling podcast, whatever. A few years ago, about 5 years ago, the idea was to be 50-50 wrestling and 50-50 into sports betting. But obviously, I learned quickly that this was moving down a social justice route. I had my Twitter cancelled for an opinion that I gave out. That was largely down to the rallying of Ryan Satin and a few other of these guys. And then that's when it sort of became a vendetta. Like, I had no issues at that point in terms of people wanting to steer their content in a direction where they would be in line with the WWE, on their right side of WWE. WWE would grant them interviews and whatnot. But when I started out and we started to get that via Sportskeeda, I was running the Dirty Sheets podcast on the side, but also working as a journalist for Sportskeeda for my news. And I just found the interviews absolutely pointless. Everybody's giving you generic answers and whatnot. So, yeah, it's all good being on the media row, and it's all good that you get to talk to Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and whoever. But if they don't say shit to you, like, what's the point of the content? It doesn't mean anything. I'm having to sit on stories about Rusev and Lana wanting to leave WWE. This is back in 2017, and we're being asked to take this story down and take that story down if we want to be in the WWE media circle. But the WWE media circle doesn't mean shit. It's just this status thing. And for me, it was better to have a status where, oh, he's the guy that just says what he likes, and he's the guy that's not one of these guys. And obviously, I was on top of seeing where the business was going, where we'd have less and less controversial content and more where these talking heads, these dirt sheet writers are kind of steering where the content goes. I find at the moment this audience have become puppets, just like everybody became puppets a couple of years ago and just lined up for their vaccines. We have now all we've got these puppets in wrestling where they'll turn around and say, this is a 5-star match, and they'll start quoting that this is a 5-star match and use it why a wrestler's better. They'll turn around and say, oh, we want this New Japan AEW pay-per-view. And all of these idiots will think they want it when deep down, if they start to engage their brain and ask their own and have their real own opinions, they'll probably realize that they didn't enjoy that much. I haven't seen it personally, but I know the build-up was shit, and I'm not expecting too much more from the pay-per-view. And my main issue with these Dirt Sheet Writers is the fact that they have an opinion of what they like, and suddenly it's become more of opinion, more echoed by people. And I don't think that that's genuine. I think people have just sort of stopped thinking for themselves, and now their opinions are being guided by other people. Opinions should never be guided by other people. Opinions are supposed to be your own. Like, if you agree with them, fine. If you don't, then let's speak out. Like, let's not start telling people that this is great and that's great. And I think that's my main issue with all of these dirt sheets and the other guys that do this, in terms of they're geeks, and they're like, all right. So there's geeks and there's geeks. Like, I'm a geek because I'm sitting here behind a bunch of autographed classic superstars, right? But I'm a geek for the people that I enjoyed wrestling. Like, you're not seeing any Kenny Omega signatures behind me, or Young Bucks or anything like that, because I couldn't give a shit about these people, and I couldn't give a shit about all of the Japanese wrestlers that walked out in AEW. I gave a shit about people that entertained me greatly. So I have no issue engaging that geek side to try and get those autographs, or wanting to meet with those people, or say that I've seen Flair, Hogan, Ted DiBiase, Jake Roberts, whatever. But it's like, what we're doing at the moment is it's not more so about being a geek, because I think that's I have no issue with the term geek, but I do feel that we have marks at the moment who are dictating to you what you should and shouldn't like, and too many people are piggybacking off it without really thinking, do I really want to see Suzuki Ching Chong wrestle on the AEW pay-per-view this week? Do I really want to see this guy coming in from Japan? Do I really want to see that guy coming in from Japan? And I think a lot less people did than they made out. But I think a long-winded answer to a question I don't even think you asked me, by the way. So
it's all good, bruv. No, it's nice.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Just let people go, because and this is exactly the fucking reason why we just want to let you go as well, because you do have opinions, and you're not worried about saying them to people, because you're not worried. Like you say, you've got no vested interest. You don't want to be in the fucking circle jerk of like AEW or WWE. You've got no vested interest in doing that. Like, you don't need to.
My thing is this. It's really, really simple. Like, so just a nutshell, my point of why I even bother to do this, because as 95% of my income comes in from lock betting, that was something that I primarily focused on after the shit hit the fan with wrestling, and I had the falling out with Sportskeeda, and I lost my Twitter account. My biggest regret is like, why did I not go for the gambling audience with this? I had a verified Twitter, obviously, off the back of Big Brother. So I was like, why did I go 50-50? Why did I not go all in on gambling? There's a shit ton of money on there. On my Patreon, for example, it's $5 for wrestling news. It's $125 for betting picks, right? So by that logic, I guess you would need 28 wrestling fans to pay out the same amount of money as a betting client, for example. So in that sense, after Patreon's had a deduction, so in that sense, it doesn't make any sense to go 50-50. But the reason why I keep doing it is because the reason is because I had this issue with the dirt sheet writers, and I have an issue with the fact that they're influencing you. So I do news because I have easy access to the news. My agency, when I left Big Brother, was the same agency that worked with the WWE. I maintain friends from there. And as I always say, like, the way you get news, I don't understand how Dave Meltzer gets news. I don't think he does. I don't understand how Satin does. I don't understand how Sap does, because the way the world works is that I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Like, I've done favors for these people in terms of getting their betting account, people in WWE or people that work in WWE marketing. I've helped them get their betting accounts set up through being able to have more betting options with guys I know through the Sports Gambling podcast. I've been able to organise things for them to do when they come into the UK through like friendships that I've made. Certain wrestlers will call me and say, "Oh, can you sort us out this? Can you sort us out that?" I've been able to. I've obviously worked. I worked with the WWE and IPW after it came out of Big Brother. I had a relationship with WWE through there, and yeah, it's just a case of, and also like even other things like when I was involved in the porn industry. There'll be guys contacting me and going, "Oh, can you sort us out? Can we come and stand on a porn set? Can we watch porn or whatever?" So these are just examples, but over the years, there's been tons of stuff that I've been involved in, which has crossed over with WWE. So it's a thing where favors equal favors, right? And friendship and my friendships are genuine. It's genuine. When WWE come over here, I will hang out with not only wrestlers but marketing people and guys that are involved in all sorts of jobs. I don't understand what other people's links are, and without those genuine friendships, I don't think there's real access to news. So what I do with that news is I use it as a hook to get people in to listen to what else I have to say. Because if I'm just a guy turning around and going, Sean Ross Sapp sucks and Meltzer sucks and New Japan sucks and all that, there's loads of podcasts doing that. But the thing is that if I have news that comes to fruition, which it does over 90% of the time, then that's the way people start listening to you. And off the back of that, you can then turn around and go, don't let these guys influence you. Don't listen to them. Don't turn around and say you want more women's wrestling. Don't pretend that you're offended by this. Don't pretend that you're offended by that. And I think we're getting somewhere. When we heard the pop that Vince McMahon got for sleeping around and paying off that woman, and he got a genuine pop, I thought, yes, fucking hell, like there are still people like me around who want this product to be good again, who want to who want to take the shackles off and let WWE or wrestling be what it's supposed to be, which is just like ridiculous carny bullshit, which is like, which is why is Conor McGregor and Logan Paul and Jake Paul doing wrestling better than wrestling? Why do their press conferences sell fights better than we sell WrestleMania? It makes no fucking sense. Like wrestling did it first. Like, let's go back to doing it like properly. Like, don't be influenced by these like pussies that want 5-star matches between guys that nobody cares about, that can't even be bothered to go to a fucking gym. Like, why? We don't need to see that. Like that means nothing to anybody.
Bro,
I
literally hitting the fucking nail on the head at every point. But also, I wanted to touch on the way that you broke down rating matches, because that is something that is fucking interesting, dude. The way that you break down what is, where you do it with like, out of 10, out of 10, out of 10.
The system we come up with. Yeah,
dude. That's really fucking interesting, man, because although you can disagree on certain parts of it or give slightly higher or slightly lower, you can still come to the fact of, we both thought it was a 4.5 star match, because you might have rated it 42 or something, and I've rated it like fucking, I don't know, 47 or whatever, but we can kind of agree that it's really. Could you break it down just like the sections?
Yeah, it was the thing that we put into it was that, there's a lot of matches that happen with these, Omega versus this guy, Omega versus that guy, but there's nothing going into it, and I don't think there was any marking ever for the build or the story that goes into the match, because it's a snowball effect where the build will have a reflection on the storytelling in the match, and the storytelling in the match and the build also will have an effect on the crowd response. So if you haven't done anything going in, if you're just throwing out this guy versus this guy on Dynamite like they do, for me, straight away, like the rating has to go down, because the anticipation isn't there. The crowd are not going to be engaged. The story you're going to tell doesn't make any sense. Like, so I'll give you an example of what would work. Of my system, you would get a 10. You'd get close to a 10 if the storyline had got really, really personal, and then somebody had come in and maybe broke somebody's arm in the build-up, and then the guy was still going to work the match. Let's say that Cody injury on the chest, right? That obviously added to the match. But let's say Rollins had done that, where he'd broken his arm instead, and then he worked the arm in a match. Immediately, the work in the match goes higher because the story was told well going into it, and then you have something to do. And then people will be like cringing because, the arm was injured, or they can see that Cody's pec was injured, which did work. Which is, I agreed with Meltzer giving that 5 stars, but obviously it was massively helped by the reality aspect of it. So straight away, like that would be a higher mark because the story's there. Then I obviously would look at where the match takes place. It's not a case of putting it in the Tokyo Dome. I think immediately, if you're working a WrestleMania match that has a big WrestleMania story, you should immediately be elevated into a higher echelon. Like, you should be taken into consideration that these guys worked a good match on Raw, and these guys worked a good match at WrestleMania and delivered in front of 70, 80,000 people. There's no grading for that as far as Meltzer's star system is concerned.
No.
So that's why we came up with everything that we did for the way that we're going to look at these 5 different elements that go into getting it to 5 stars and why it did. Because when he just throws out a star rating with no definition or reasoning behind, well, how did you get there? It's kind of, it's so basic. Like, my son just had an exam, a SATs exam, which I have in year 6 before they go to secondary school.
Yeah, my son had the same.
And there's on a maths question, there's 3 marks, and the answer's only worth 1. The other 2 marks are how you got there. So with the carry, you know, with the multiplication, carried a number, and you got to draw it out into levels, you know, with long multiplication, etc. Probably boring people now, but the point is that they explain how the children have to explain how did you get that answer. Whereas Dave Meltzer's not held to any kind of reasoning behind how he got to 5.5, 6, even breaking his own scale. Like when he started to give 6 or 7. That's when that system lost all credibility, and that's why we started to do our own.
Well, I mean, he started throwing out them higher stars because he was deep throating all the people that he wanted to get in with, and that's, like you say, that circle jerk of fucking Uncle Dave just literally trying to. Because the thing with Dave Meltzer is he was like instrumental really in the start of AEW, so he kind of sees himself as being like a co-creator of AEW in a way, where he was like, oh no, you can't do this, you can't really just start a wrestling company, blah blah blah, and then boom, it happens or whatever. But yeah, I mean,
let me ask you guys a question though. When you say that, he did create that, and then he created, by he elevated those guys with the star system, or at least to that core audience that are into AEW.
Yeah.
But the fact is, in your guys' eyes, or if you're looking at the eyes of a casual fan, according to Meltzer, every Kenny match, like Kenny Omega absolutely bosses Brock Lesnar in star ratings. Brock Lesnar doesn't belong in the same breath as Kenny Omega as far as wrestling matches go, according to Meltzer.
Yeah.
But and you look at it through your eyes, and you look at it through the eyes of like a casual fan watching on television, what match is going to entertain you more? Like watching Lesnar go out there even for 10 minutes, or Kenny doing 45?
No, I would happily watch Brock squash the fuck out of someone. Then, because I mean, we've said on this show before, I'm not a huge fan of Kenny Omega anyway. But it's right. It's just because he's trying to. Meltzer's using the platform he has to elevate AEW to a point way beyond what it is, to kind of pander to that core audience.
It will never leave that vacuum. It will just
that's right.
That vacuum is very tight. It will stay that way. And and as to your point on Brock Lesnar thing, I'm much we were brought up in the 90s. We expected to see these big guys doing these these superhuman sort of physiques and all that. I know, those physiques were probably modified somewhat,
but give a fuck. This is my point as well, man. I fucking give me steroids in wrestling. I don't give a fuck what they want to do. Like, if people want to juice themselves up, they're going to do it either way, bro. Like, there's a really interesting documentary, and it's called Bigger, Stronger, Faster, The Side Effects of Being American. And it was written by one of the Bell brothers. And he's basically saying that the majority of people that use steroids in America are just your general gym rats. Like, in the wrestling business, you've always had the big guys, and they're going to take steroids. It's not the whole thing about AEW going for the whole rankings, and it's a sport and that, bro. It's not a fucking sport.
Yes.
Like, give me juiced up dickheads, man, all day long.
Here's the difference. There's no way that certain actors are going from part to part. Where I think there was one where, oh god, I can't remember who it was that had to get. I think it was the guy that played Batman. I think it was Christian Bale.
Christian Bale,
could well have been.
He had to get really fat and then really toned up again for 2 different parts. But the point is that it's okay for Hollywood And I don't see why WWE are held to a different standard, because at the end of the day, this is still acting and performance. So, and your physique is key. And the other thing is that through the deaths that were experienced in the 80s, or as a result of what happened in the 80s, most of the deaths occurred in the 90s. Yeah. But through the steroid deaths, and it wasn't just in WWE, it was in bodybuilding and just much less published deaths. A lot of people dying in their 40s and whatnot. But we know now what doses to take, and also there's also things to take and run alongside it in terms of post-cycle therapy and things that you take to protect your liver alongside any steroid cycle. Plus, much safer steroids, where you need to pay a lot more for the likes of an Anvar than you would. I mean, at the time, I don't know exactly what, I wasn't taking steroids in the 80s or really haven't ever done. But the fact is that back then it would have been a lot of like DECA, which is like a really strong, like building, like a bit of bulking steroid. And you can see that the guys weren't particularly toned in the 80s, but they were just fucking huge.
Massive,
which means they were using a steroid that was making their muscles full of water. So, which is what DECA does. It stores a lot of liquid in the muscles. So the point is that we now know a lot more about it. Nobody is dying from steroids now, as long if they're done properly. If you stick to the right dosage, if you cycle on, cycle off, if you do post-cycle therapy, if you take milk thistle, if you protect your liver and everything like that, protect your heart, no one's dying from steroids now. Like The Rock's not dying from steroids. Look, The Rock looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
Captain America looks ridiculous. Like everybody in these movies look ridiculous. They all have enhanced physique because there are millions and millions and millions of pounds on the line. These Hollywood movies can cost up to £100 million, like $100 million even. So there's no way anybody's coming out there taking a risk and turning around and saying, "Oh yeah, well I tried to work out and I tried to diet the best I can, and this is what I've ended up with." Like there's not. I mean, I think the worst one was the biggest example I could think of, where a movie actually had to be delayed because Robert Pattinson wasn't working out properly for Batman. Like he just wasn't. He just wasn't doing everything that the personal trainer wanted him to do, and that was well publicized at the time. But yeah, I mean, these guys are PTs, dietitians, and they have steroids. And WWE should have PT, dietitians, and they should be doing steroids if they want to look the part, and they should be doing it safely. If it's managed by the actual doctor that's there, then I don't really see what the issue is.
Well, it's actually interesting as well, because it's also becoming known that people that do take steroids, they're able to actually recuperate from injuries and from workouts a lot quicker. And there's a lot of wrestlers now, especially in AEW, that are actually injured and are injuring themselves like quite badly, quite regularly. And I mean, I'm not saying that, stop yourself getting injured, fucking juice yourself up. But it just seems really weird, because it is a well-known thing that, the guys that are on steroids, they can recoup a lot quicker. Right.
Yeah, that was the Hulk Hogan defense in '94, where he turned around and said he'd used it for a couple of injuries, and that kind of off the whole steroid trial. But yeah, I mean, it's never going to happen. It's never going to be a case where they're accepted as a form of entertainment. But at the same time, I don't think that there's any need for the stringent drug testing. There is no microscope on them on that aspect. I mean, when weed was legalized, the WWE stopped testing for it. I know 90% of the roster are smoking marijuana again. So I mean, it's just a process. Like, and even with coke, like coke's not in your system 48 hours later. So if they want to do coke, they can do coke too. It's just steroids remains the last kind of hurdle stopping us. But in WWE's defense, without steroids, they do have like far better physiques. When I mean, you're looking at physiques there that look steroid enhanced, but they aren't. You've just got a very big selection of natural athletes that manage to hold on to that body type. I mean, you can tell Drew McIntyre's not a steroid guy, because there are times where you will catch little bits of just tiny bits of not flab necessarily, but like, there's days where he'll have a little bit more extra skin, which shows that that's just a very, very good natural physique. Whereas Matt Riddle, who's a real athlete who's come from UFC, does no steroids and has pretty much like under 5% body fat. Orton's managed to retain like a great physique throughout his career, with probably only using steroids from injury cycles because he's had injuries and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, still without them, they have much better physiques than AEW. But looking at AEW, they could really benefit from the fact that if they could use steroids again, because they don't have great physiques there anyway, and they're not a publicly traded company where the backlash wouldn't even be anywhere near significant for them. So I don't understand. Your whole thing's supposed to be, let's do what WWE can't do, but instead they've decided to go down the route of let's be what WWE would never even want to be, which is catering to this. And the thing is that I don't know this for a fact, but I would guess, in fact, let's not say 100%. I was about to say every AEW fan, but let's say 90% of AEW fans, 90% of the people that watched Dynamite last night already watched Raw and they already watched SmackDown. So they may be a disgruntled WWE audience that wanted an alternative, but do you actually really think that they ever left WWE? Do you really think they don't keep an eye on what's going on in WWE? Because WWE was the originator, like was the whole reason why we're all here. So there's no way they're going to stop watching and stop following storylines and whatnot, just in case it does become good again and whatnot. But as I said, like, it's stupid because the reason they stopped watching WWE was to have an alternative. And what they've got is something that gives them even longer matches for less reason, which is actually worse than WWE. So it's not
and a lot of WWE guys.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of WWE guys, which, yeah, they may have complained about them being underutilized and whatnot, and this guy deserves a push, this guy deserves a push. I mean, Cesaro being a big one, and he came in. So how do you push Cesaro? How do you push Cesaro any bigger or better than you push Keith Lee? Like, how can you do it when you've got, like, there's only so many people that can win. Yeah. Because if for people to win, people need to lose. You can't all win. You can pad out these records with these bullshit wins on AEW Dark and whatnot. But eventually, names have got to wrestle names, and you've got to make decisions. This business ain't as easy as just, oh, everybody's Bill Goldberg. It's not how it works at all. So if you want Keith Lee to be big, cool, he's got to beat Cesaro. If you want Cesaro to be the man that you've been pulling for years, good, he's got to go through Keith Lee, or he's got to go through Moxley, or he's got to go through all of these other indie darlings or these Mark darlings that they said needed a bigger push. You know, they say like Finn Balor's used badly. All right, let's say Finn Balor goes to AEW. Who's he going to beat? Does he have to beat all the guys that you want to win all the time? It's just, it doesn't make any sense.
No, I mean, it's fucking crazy because this is exactly what we spoke about on our show, isn't it, Jordan, for fucking months and months. I mean, when AEW started, I mean, me and Jordan are huge WCW fucking fans. We watched a lot and reviewed a lot of the shows. So when you've got AEW coming through and you're like, okay, Cody Rhodes, yeah, you know, you've got that kind of, you know, maybe it's going to be kind of a bit of a challenger to WWE. But as time's gone on, I mean, it's just becoming ridiculous. I mean, the one guy that was really, and yeah, CM Punk was a draw. When he came back after all those years, fucking the roof popped off. It was in Chicago, but, you know, it went off. But the one guy that was able to work an amazing program with him was MJF. And MJF has been elevating whoever he's worked with. People love Wardlow like they love Wardlow now because of MJF, because of the whole series before it. You know, even the stuff he was doing with Cody, the stuff he was doing for years. So I know you're the man for news, bro. And I know you've spoken about MJF, but dude, I need to know what the fuck is going on with him, because he is now, even last week, he was able to have an argument with someone at an airport that got him onto like American TV. The guy, everything he touches is fucking gold because he's living that kayfabe kind of character lifestyle. So what can you tell us about MJF, what's happening at the minute, man? If you can, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, it's just what I reported. And as I'm not on the payroll, I'm not on Tony Khan's payroll, I just reported it genuinely, where people are reporting this like there's any confusion there at all. It's just very, very simple. They try to work their audience They tried to say that MJF wasn't there that weekend. They tried to say that he tried to fly home. They tried to say he didn't turn up to an autograph signing. All of this was predetermined during negotiations between Tony Khan and MJF for the things that MJF wanted to sign an extension. Now, the extension hasn't been signed, but hasn't even been, there wasn't ever an option there to sign an extension because MJF wasn't going to. What MJF wanted to even consider that was to have some creative control and be paid properly for the remainder of his contract till 2024, which to where he fits in. Because at the point where negotiations opened up or where he became disgruntled was because loads of people jumped ahead of him on the pay scale. Christian, Sting, Aleister Black, Keith Lee. These are all guys that shouldn't be paid the same or more than MJF, but they were. Jeff Hardy being another. So MJF's pay was elevated, not above all of the people that I just mentioned, but into a middle where he sits behind Punk, Moxley, and Daniel Bryan Danielson. So
I heard Nyla Rose is actually getting paid more than MJF was.
No, I don't know where that one came out. Nyla Rose is not paid seven figures.
Right.
Nyla Rose is not one of the seven-figure people. There are some strange people that do get seven figures or just below that, like Dax and Harwood, Mark Henry, and the Big Show. Like they're all just slightly behind getting $1 million, but they're not in the million bracket. But there are a lot of people in there, like the Young Bucks, Christian, Aleister Black, or
Malachi.
Sting. Like there is a lot of people that do get over $1 million, but yeah, they're not one of them. Or she's not one of them. He's not one of them. Whatever Nyla Rose is. But yeah, MJF is now getting paid more so what he wants. He wants to do this angle with creative control, and they want to see where they're at the end of it. So in 3-4 months' time, they may enter negotiations to extend beyond 2024. But at the moment, they're doing this MJF storyline as proposed by MJF. They're doing what MJF wants to do. They're trying to make it look as real as possible. Meltzer, Sapp, all these people that I believe are paid by AEW are just going along with it. But the real story is it's just a storyline. It's a storyline that they want to make look real. I feel the drawback of that is that in this modern day, when you've got a hot story and you take it off television for a month because you need to do Japan pay-per-view, you kind of lose momentum, because the problem with doing the real storyline is when he comes back, you can't then recap what he said. You're trying to make it so real that the commentators didn't talk about it after it happened, and then when he does come back, you can't recap it. So how do you bring MJF back at this point? At the moment, you're trying to make it look like he's been removed from everything, that he's suspended or whatever. Eventually, at some point, this is going to have to turn into wrestling. Eventually, this turns into wrestling matches. Eventually, this turns to him, buying a ticket, sitting in the crowd, getting involved in matches, doing whatever. Eventually, the pro wrestling stuff starts, and then, all of this intrigue that you're trying to build, you're trying to make it look as real as possible. But that has a shelf life because we're in the smart mark era. Like there's no way that you can fool anybody long term. And the damage that it does, not that there can be any more damage to Meltzer's credibility, but how does Meltzer and Satin and Sapp and all these guys explain their way out of it? The obvious thing is going to be that it was real at one point, but at some point they negotiated with MJF and decided to turn it into a story. That's bullshit. It's been a story since the so-called walkout, since the autograph signing, which he didn't attend.
So that was that they decided to actually knob off their own fans that had paid hundreds of dollars to go and see him, and they decided it was a smart idea to fucking knob them off and make them angry. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the anger creates the reality element of it, which what you just said is exactly what they used to create the doubt, because people doing that is what made it look real and what they felt like they needed to do. They felt like that was the necessary in order to add the reality element to it. But in reality, these people were refunded their full money.
Sure.
and were allowed to have a choice to meet somebody else for free. I imagine most of them chose Sting, but with these fans, they might have chose Orange
Britt
Cassidy.
Baker, yeah, probably.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they were compensated, which which didn't get out enough to AEW's like, you should be credited for that. But at the same time, I don't think anybody can genuinely make the claim, as good as he is, that they flew out to this pay-per-view to meet MJF. Like this fan base did not fly out to meet MJF. This fan base buy tickets to anything that says AEW on it, but that's to their credit, right? But in order to run a viable business, you need 3 million of those, not 500,000 of those, right? Yeah. You need 3 million of those. And the issue that I have with it is that you are selling out these buildings anyway. Your rating on Dynamite was 900,000 anyway. Moxley was there during when this was happening anyway. I can understand that siding, but by adding Aleister Black, Rusev, Daniel Bryan, Adam Cole, all of these people that you put on $1 million contracts, CM Punk on a $5 million deal, by adding all of these people and not increasing your number, you're wasting money. Like if I start, if I have my company Lock Betting and I start, and I'm making whatever I make on Lock Betting, right? Let's say I make a certain amount and I start spending, $5-6 grand a month on advertising, which brings in no new customers, right? How is that good business? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. Every penny that you spend on your business needs to equate to growth. Yeah. Like each and every investment needs to equate to growth. What we've got is a daddy's boy who's still playing with his action figures, and the action figures are human beings, which is what they are. He's adding these action figures to his collection every single week. Like you're spending this much on Keith Lee and this much on Buddy Murphy and all of these guys that are coming. I'm still using their WWE names, I know, but they're all coming in from WWE, but they don't add anything to it. You increased your wage bill by $45 million and didn't add a single viewer to Dynamite. In fact, you're going down. So I don't understand how he's a Booker of the Year. I don't understand how he's a businessman. I don't understand the model. Like, I don't understand. I understand all of the reasons why you want to bring all of these people in, right? To make the product better. But at some point, it's got to equate to the other thing. It's got to equate to like adding numbers to it, and it doesn't. So I can understand if 5 or 6 people where you turn around and go, okay, we've got 900,000 people. We want to keep 900,000 people. We want to keep our current customers happy. We want to sign a few guys to keep the storylines fresh, but it's excessive, like to the point where, they've got about, I would say they've made 15 signings more than made any business sense. So that's where we're at. We got one company that's a business and we got one company that's clearly not a business, because by definition it can't be described as a business, because businesses don't do that.
Businesses make money. They're supposed to make money.
Not all businesses make money, but the idea is that they at least they're supposed to be trying to make money.
Yeah.
These people aren't even trying to. He's not even trying to make money, because there is a way to book this show with all of this talent to actually make money, but like it's not being done. Like they're just trying to, get the approval of an audience that you already have on a weekly basis. I tell you what, like you could do bra and panty matches next week on Dynamite, and this audience wouldn't go. There are 700,000 people there that will never ever go. The fact that they've sat through this shit for the last month tells, as much as it's been bad and as much as it's been the wrong thing to do, what I would do is, if I was him, I would look at it and say, but me and him don't think the same, because he actually likes this Japanese stuff. But for me, as if I was not Tony Khan, but Nick Khan, an outsider coming into WWE, I would look at it and go, this is the worst thing that we can do. This is the thing that we can do that isolates our casual audience as much as we possibly can. And we still did 700,000. So we have 700,000 people here that are never, ever, ever going to leave. we could put CM Punk on a toilet for 2 hours and show him like taking a shit, and they're still going to watch. So that's the only positive that you can take out of it.
I mean, what are your thoughts on the amount of, because talking about him spending money and not getting any return for it? Me and Jordan have been absolutely fucking baffled at why Tony Khan paid $40 million for Ring of Honor. Like what that was for. Like that doesn't seem to really, because again, that 750,000 people were probably everyone that watched fucking Ring of Honor.
Well, it's like this. It's like when there is some guys who do feel that there's no point going into a strip club because you're only going to get teased out of it. You know, like there's a lot of guys that turn around and go, oh, you know, like for five, what you paid for 5 dancers, you could have got a shag for that. You could have got, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you've obviously heard people talk this way about why they don't go to strip clubs. At least, you know, I've heard it in my circles where certain guys don't want to go to strip clubs or whatever. So that for me is similar to what this is. Whereas we're looking at it in terms of this, some guys won't want to waste money in a strip club. He has the money to waste. He's the type of guy that he could go to a strip club and he could buy 10 bottles and have every girl dance for him in the club, but it doesn't make any difference to the bottom line because he has so much money. For him to go in that, it's like me and you going down to the shops, buying a packet of crisps that are stale and throwing them in the bin because you know you didn't check the sell by date on the bag of crisps and you have to waste that 70p, right? For him, it's spending his money, getting Keith Lee in is like spending 70p. He's got that much money, or between him and his dad. It's hard. I don't need to come on here and explain what $7 billion looks like and what it can get you. Yeah. But the fact is that if this company spends 100 million or lose $100 million a year, it doesn't mean shit. It's for me, for him, it's like us going out and paying a lot of money for a meal, like for having a high priced meal at a restaurant. It means absolutely nothing. This is a guy living his best life. This is a guy living out his dream. This is a guy who has gone on other shows and said, in fact, I work with Conan, and Conan he's had conversations with Conan, private conversations that perhaps, you know, I should be talking about here, but I don't think it's anything to be necessarily ashamed of, because I think we've all done it. I've sat in certain lessons at school and tried to book WWE, right? In the, you know, chemistry lessons and science. Like I'd sit there and try and book WWE back in the Attitude Era. He's done the same thing. Like the difference is that he's shown Conan and he's shown people that how he tried to be a booker when he was younger. So for us, if we had $7 billion and bought a wrestling company, we'd book it differently to this. And somebody would be turning around and going, oh, you know, to me, they'd be turning around and going, oh, you know, why did you bring bra and panties matches back? Or what, you know, why have you got the women doing this? Or why are you doing this? Or why are you doing that? Like wrestling's moved forward since then. And I'd be like, yeah, it's my money. I'm bringing it back. Like I'm fucking booking the Attitude Era again. I've bought Vince Russo out of retirement to book parts of my show. Like I would be getting shit from a different section of the audience where they'd be saying that I'm fucking crazy, whereas we're saying this guy's crazy. But the thing is that I know that my wrestling company would draw a larger casual audience than his because of the way that I would do things. But at the end of the day, with $7 billion, I wouldn't give a fuck if it did anyway, like he doesn't, because the sooner this other side of the wrestling bubble, which is us guys, stop looking at it as a business, the quicker it will make sense. I've stopped because I understand what $7 billion is. What I don't understand, and this is the part that this is where I'm at. I understand that this is a guy, this is a man-child playing with toys, and $7 billion means that 100 million doesn't mean anything. I'm done with that. Okay.
Right.
What I don't understand is how his Twitter account, how he can go on there and constantly tweet about wrestling as the owner of Fulham Football Club and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Fulham have just come back up from relegation and haven't signed any significant players.
It's funny you mentioned that.
And the Jags have constantly had one of the worst records in the NFL. Now, if I'm in their owners and I'm following, and if I'm their fan, and I'm following my owner, and they're tweeting 90% wrestling, and he's there trying to explain how they won the Friday Night Wars or whatever, I'd be fucking livid. I'm already, as a Man United fan, I already fucking hate the Glazers, but I think that I would be even more livid because they're not active enough. If I had this psycho running one of my teams and he's on there like being pro wrestling guy, that is where it gets to a point where I don't understand how you can be dedicating your time this much to the point of you've got legitimate businesses, like massive businesses. To have an NFL franchise is huge.
And a Premier League one as well. A Premier League fucking team now coming up. It's insane.
It's insane to be that dedicated to wrestling, to have Fulham playing on a Wednesday night, which they will be, especially because we'll be catching up with this season. There'll be a lot more midweek action because of the World Cup, right? So he won't be there on a Wednesday. He'll be at Dynamite. He won't even be watching Fulham. He'll be booking Dynamite. Like that, there could be an AEW pay-per-view on the same night as a Jags game. Where the fuck is he going to be? Yeah. He'll be at AEW. That is insane. Spend your money, do what you want. Like get hose, get hookers, lines of coke. Do whatever you want, like with it. Like go nuts. Go and be on Epstein's Island. I don't care. But at the end of the day, like he's chosen to run a wrestling company. That's fine. I'd do the same. I'd have the coke and hookers too. But I would still probably have a wrestling company. In fact, I'd have I do exactly the same. I'd have the NFL team, the football team, and the wrestling company. I'd do it all. But I would not be prioritizing it at the point where my billion-dollar franchises are secondary to my hobby. Like that makes absolutely no sense at all. That's the part I'm further than other people where I turn around and I can understand what AEW actually is, but I cannot understand how you can publicly prioritize it over your billion-dollar sports teams. No way can I ever or may never understand.
It's really funny. Like, and I'm sorry to jump in on this, like, but
no,
I literally, like, I work for a Premier League club, whatever. And I was speaking to a Fulham fan yesterday, and he literally outlined the whole problem. He said, they got promoted on a 40-goal a season striker, whatever, that happened. But he goes, they're going to go into this new Premier League season. They're going to probably go down. And all the owner's going to do is just beat his chest about AEW. So he's not going to care a slight about, of course he doesn't care about what the Jags do. The Jags will just get the first round draft pick and make a few bucks off of, shirt sales. That's what happens in the NFL. But, they're probably going to bounce around Premier League Championship for a couple more years before someone either gets bored of it or they start to drop further down the leagues. And like, it was a really disenfranchised Fulham fan, and I felt sorry for him because he clearly loves football, and he loved talking about Fulham and loved talking about football in general, and everything. But he's just he was really pained that this owner of his is clearly not that bothered about it.
I speak to a lot of Fulham fans. My business, I own a shop, and it's in West London. So I know a lot of Fulham fans around my way where I am. And a lot of my clients that come in are Fulham fans. And one of them was telling me the same similar thing, that the focus, just like you say, they've been promoted, but a lot of it is they've done up the ground, and they've got these hotels and things that they've built onto the side of the ground and all this kind of thing. But they still don't feel that the owner's focused on their club, that literally he's spread himself so thin that back then, at least he was doing a little bit with the Jags. He was doing like the data analysis of, the stuff like that. And this is what this guy was telling me, that, he does a bit with the American football team, and he was bringing a lot of the data analysis to Fulham and, to players, how many passes and fucking all this shit. But now, like you say, it is at a point, Billy, where he's not going anywhere, is he? He's not. If Fulham have got a game midweek or when there's an AEW pay-per-view, we know where he's going to be.
He don't care about the Carabao Cup.
No, of course he don't care about the Carabao Cup. He's going to be there hugging fucking, Castagnoli, isn't he? He's going to be there hugging his wrestling figures, which is, like you say, it's funny, but it's kind of not because, but if you had a wrestling company, Billy, right, you wouldn't be spunking your money in the strip club. You'd be wanting to fuck. The same with me. If I had a wrestling company and I was Tony Khan, I wouldn't be, just because I've got the money, I wouldn't be spunking it in the strip club. I'd be wanting to bust my nuts. So it's like he's not even trying to be successful. It's really weird when, like you say, with a few different booking choices, with the talent that he does have there, let's not get it twisted. He's got some really good, talented wrestlers in AEW. He's got some good guys behind the scenes, some really good old school guys that know what's going on with booking. And you've got Sting and you've got fucking, everyone backstage. But everyone's just on a jolly, mate. Everyone's just like making loads of money, chucking whatever they want into the booking pool. There's no
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, there's no control. There's no not saying that they need a booking committee, but they do need someone to go, right, hold on. Now, you're not doing that. All the first 3 matches have had people do that move. You're not doing it. With the crowd have seen it a million fucking times. We say on this show that if AEW continues to do what it is, there's only a certain amount of money that they're going to say, right, you can't, this is getting silly now. We've spunking all this money, and we're not really seeing any expandage of the viewership. We're not seeing more figures getting sold. We're not seeing more T-shirts getting sold. We're not seeing more people eyes on the product. Like when does that come to an end, Billy? When does his old man go, nah, fucking come on, mate, we've got to do this?
I think what we addressed already, I think it can only come to a head when there's the marches and whatnot that we see at Manchester United with against the Glazers, the pressure to sell.
Right.
Once the pressure to sell the other franchises comes, and it's become, for me at the moment, I don't think that it is public knowledge. I don't think it's, you said you spoke to a Fulham fan, but I don't think all Fulham fans are aware of what.
No, probably not.
Yeah. You're right. Probably right. Yeah, this is a very well-informed Fulham fan who's also a wrestling fan. So obviously he's going to know.
And I think maybe they know he owns this, but I don't think that enough people know that their owner's out on television hugging people and doing press conferences and awkwardly hugging people and cutting these stupid promos in dark matches after showing ball. I don't think that is known. Like, I think we think it may, maybe, but because we see it. Sure. But I work on, as I said, I work on the sports gambling podcast. I cover the football there. I know guys the guys that cover the NFL, and I sent them videos of Tony Khan when he went crazy over Giannis. Remember when he was when he was introducing Giannis and there was
his feet,
crazy high voice. And I said, look at this. This is the owner of the Jags, and they had no idea.
Nuts.
He was what's he doing there? What's he doing? Why is he in the? And they went, why is he in the WWE? I went, that's not the WWE. That's the AEW or something, a wrestling company he owns. And they were like, oh, he owns a wrestling company. We didn't know that. And
wow.
So and these are guys that live and breathe NFL, like properly, live and breathe it. So I don't feel the cat is out of the bag yet, but I feel that once, at the moment, the Glaze at Manchester United, every move they make, every investment, every time they take the dividends out of the club, it's now we know about it and we protest it. It's taken a long time to get to this point where we're fucking really sick of it. And I feel it will get like that with Fulham, and it will get like that with the Jags. And I think that will be the point where AEW is seen as being more of a hassle because you find it's a hobby at the moment, but the backlash isn't there from the other franchises. And I think initially what might happen is that we may see him diverting his time more appropriately. But I think once we see it becoming a complete mess, or at least not, something that he sees as fun anymore, because it's like, oh, I can't go, I'm not even allowed to go there and play with my wrestlers. So why am I'm now wasting money at something I'm not enjoying. I'm not like getting to like hug Japanese wrestlers, and I'm not getting to like smell Britt Baker's knickers. And yeah, it's like I'm not gonna, I can't be there. I don't want to do it. You see, I think that will be the process.
Wow. And okay, so I mean, Billy, we spoke before the podcast, and I said to Jordan, there's so much I could talk to you about and ask you about, like literally. And we know you're a fucking busy dude, and you've got loads of shit to do, so we don't want to keep you for all night. So I mean,
are you going to be at Clash at the Castle?
Yes, that's the one question. Are you going to be at Clash at the Castle? Because we're going to be there.
I've got. Let me see. Yeah, I can. I've got like 10, 15, and then I can come back on another time if you've got.
Sweet.
Because I know you asked. You had something about IPW, one of you or whoever.
That was me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll definitely do that before I go, and then we'll do the rest of it another time. But yeah, I can do like another 15. I'll just text Joe Feeney in a second. But yeah, I'm going to Clash of the Castle. That was actually weird because these are tickets that I put in for like comps, and the wrestlers are saying that they're only getting 2 comps each for it, which is standard for pay-per-view. It's standard for WrestleMania, where I don't get free WrestleMania tickets. WrestleMania is the only tickets I pay for every year. Like house shows, Raw, SmackDowns, SummerSlams even. I don't pay for the tickets. I'm going to SummerSlam for free. But WrestleMania is the only one I pay for. So when I put in for Clash, they were like, sorry, bro, it's WrestleMania process. 2 tickets only per person.
Wow.
So yeah, so I got my Clash tickets, paid for those, and looked around, and yeah, they're not moving. Inquired about them, they're not moving. Like they in fact, like as of the other day, somebody told me they're moving at an average since the first week they came out. Since then, they've been moving at an average of like 80 to 85 sales a day, which is not going to sell out the building. In fact, it's not even going to get close to 40,000 based on what they've already sold before. And you're in a big predicament here. You try to overprice it, so because you thought that we wanted it bad, and we did, but we're also being raped for petrol and gas at the same time. So if there's a choice between heating your house and getting to work, like you're probably going to make sure that you can continue to survive rather than going to an overpriced pay-per-view. So that's what people have decided to do. Now the problem is I've paid £450 each for my tickets, right? Which is not even expensive. It's like third tier pricing I got, and that's only because my son doesn't like anything on the floor. We've sat row 2 before and he didn't like it. So even in fact, we sat row 1 before, and he didn't like looking up at the apron like during the match. So he prefers the seat right in the middle. The hard cam is where we get the free tickets usually. He loves the hard cam seat. So I bought the equivalent to that for the show, and it's £450 each. Now, if they don't sell out the show, and the alternative is, oh shit, we need to sell it out, we need to do buy one get one free, we need to start giving them away on competitions, we need to put the prices down. What do you then say to the 40,000 people?
Yeah, they've already paid.
Yes, because am I going to turn around and go, do I then turn around and go, fuck you, like send me £200 back because my £450 ticket is now worth 250 or whatever? Because obviously I can't. I'm going to have no case. But you then disenfranchise your most hardcore fans who are willing to commit to you first and foremost. And it makes it difficult to run another event because then everybody's going to play the waiting game, which is not what any promoter wants. Every promoter, if you've ever done an event, I mean, I've done club nights and whatnot, but I know that I want my pre-sales done as quickly as possible because it takes the pressure off me. Because when I was doing London club nights, I had to put down a £10,000 deposit to make sure that and only when the bar spend was 10,000 did you get the 10,000 back. That's how London works. If you want to do an event in London, you've got to give them 10,000, and they give you a 10,000 back once the bar makes 10,000. Now that sounds like a risk, but it's not, because the drinks are about £20 each. So
Yeah.
you get to a 10K bar pretty easily. Like you only need about 150, 170 people to walk in and buy a drink or two, and you're okay. So it's not a big risk, but it is for the first time you do it. With the WWE, again, they'll have costs associated to this. So what they want is they want to be showing a profit as quickly as they possibly can. What they don't want to do is set a precedent where they come over here, sell 40,000 tickets, struggle to sell the other 30,000, don't want to reconfigure the building to look, tape off all the top seats. They don't want to be moving people that got cheap seats because, again, that pisses people off. Oh, I paid £37 for my ticket, and if someone's sitting next to me and they say, I have a strike up a conversation. Say you're going to it, and I strike a conversation up with you, and you say, what'd you pay for your seat? Oh, 450 quid. What'd you pay? Oh, I got moved. I was in the gods that got closed and got moved down to your seat. I'm pissed off now anyway.
Yeah.
So many things that they need to consider now as to how they're going to get this sold out, rather than just closing it off, which is going to involve moving people. It's a real shit show. I mean, I don't understand why you targeted a £22 million gate from this show. I don't understand why you did it. There was no need. You could have run England every year and made 12 million, and you would have been laughing. We would have been making £10 million extra every single year by giving us a pay-per-view. But instead, you try to get 22 million, and you're going to blame us and say that we're not worth bringing a pay-per-view to. So I don't know. It's a weird situation right now.
It was massively overpriced. I've already said to Jordan, if there's no one down at ringside, I'm blatantly going down there. We're going to nick a couple of fucking chairs, mate. we're going straight down to ringside to grab a couple of chairs, because I don't think they're going to sell those really expensive seats round the sides.
Those chairs have become really hard to nick lately the last few years because they're all cable tied together.
Oh,
and they don't cut the cable tie anymore until you show your ticket. So it's become a real shit show. Like, I've got some from a few shows I've went to lately. As I said to you, I don't sit in those sections. Yeah. So I'll have to if my son's wanted one, I just had to hand over the cash to people. Who sometimes there's a dad who bought his 3 kids and he's there with like fucking 3 chairs on his arms, and you just know he's looking for any reason to like not take one home. Because I mean, it's heavier. Like, if you try carrying 2 or 3, like it's not a great experience. Like, especially if you're trying to get it back to a cab or a train station or whatever. So yeah.
So you going to any after parties or anything there? We're going to be out and about. We'll meet you for a pint or something, man.
I think you'll more likely catch me on the Friday.
Yeah, we're there on the Friday. Yeah, we're getting down there early.
Yeah, you're more likely catch me on the Friday. My son's first day at secondary school is on the Monday after that show. So I may be looking just to get out of there as early as possible on Sunday morning, or maybe even going on the Saturday.
I've got to be back on the Sunday because the Monday's a school for my boys as well. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I tell you what really pissed me off about it is the fixture list came out, and Man U are playing Arsenal at Old Trafford on the same day, and that's normally a game that I go to. So I just knew United were going to get a fucking home game right while the show's going on, one that I wanted to watch, because there's 2 things that I would have gone to, which is Clash at the Castle and Man U Arsenal at Old Trafford. So yeah, that's one thing already. But yeah, I'll probably go up there on Thursday night, try and hang out with a few people I know, like Drew McIntyre's, Matt Riddle's, these guys, and yeah, then obviously see some English people. It's weird. I've said to there's a lot of these troll accounts on Twitter, as you spoke and said at the start of the show, where you say there's people that don't like what you have to say, or you cause controversy, whatever. But there's some people that take it too far and call, they proper call you out like behind their keyboard. So, which I've always said that, look, I'm gonna be, if you're American, I'll be at Nashville for SummerSlam. If you're English, if you're especially that WWE Gareth, that WWE Gareth guy who's a Welsh guy who's definitely giving it a show, he gives me shit all the time. And I just said, look, just if you're in Cardiff, just shoot me a DM, just come and whatever you have to say, just come and say it to me. Come and say it to me face to face. he's very different when, you know, when they I think there's this perception that everybody behind every account looks a certain way and has a certain, you know, social standing or whatever. It's like, well, if you're gonna like talk shit to me, like, and I'll turn around and go, you know, like, if you're gonna talk shit, you need to be able to. I feel that like a lot of these guys have never been punched or had any kind of confrontation with people ever. Like,
yeah, fact. They're pussy holes. A lot of them are pussy holes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Off the back of me doing Big Brother, it's different because, you know, when I went on there, I went in there as I was, you know, I'm 6'1", but I was an 11 stone, 6'1", 11 stone model. So I looked as skinny as a rake when I did the show. Very quickly, one of the main reasons I put weight on was because I wasn't going to model anymore, and also because every nightclub I was going to, every appearance I was doing, there were people waiting to fight me constantly all the time. There was always so very quickly, like you had to learn how to go and defend yourself and how to, like, you know, you had to sort of, if there was no financial incentive for me to be 11 stone and to do that, like, you know, for about 2 years, I was consuming about 1,000 calories a day for about 2-3 years when I was in the modeling industry. As soon as I, you know, broke into television and had work coming in through there, like stuff like presenting porn series and doing club nights and, you know, and going and, you know, and just getting paid to turn up to clubs and being paid to write certain things on certain things about, you know, wearing this, I wear this type of clothing, or I like eating here, or this club's great. You know, you get paid to sell that shit.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of the stuff I was saying at the time wasn't genuine. Like a lot of the clothes I was wearing weren't picked out by me. But you know, once you get paid to start doing that, you don't have to like starve yourself anymore. And also, like, you can go to the gym and do these kind of things. So suddenly, like, you know, I started looking like a 6'1" person that you don't want to fight. So I mean, and that's the thing. That's the difference between the person behind my keyboard and the person behind their keyboard. Yeah, we can all mouth off and we can take the piss out of people and whatever. But when you say certain things, I'll turn around and go, just come and say it then. Like, I'm going to be here and I'm going to be there. So that's the interesting thing. Like with this WWE Gareth and other accounts, like I'll be in Wales and I'll clearly tell people this is where I am. If anybody has anything to say, they could say it, but they won't.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Not one person that mouths off that I turn around and go, I'll see you in Cardiff. Like they won't be there. And a lot of these accounts, they are English and they are going to be at the show. This WrestleMania and WWE Gareth, these accounts that have a lot of shit to say to me. They're all going to be in Cardiff. Not one of them will meet up and say those things to your face. Sean Ross Sapp isn't going to meet me up. He's going to be at Starcast where I'm going to be. He's not going to meet me somewhere in Nashville and discuss what our issues are. He's just not good at it. They're just all keyboard warriors, which and that's the difference. I'm not. Everything I say, I'll actually say it to every single person. I don't care. Like, I couldn't give a fuck. There's nothing I wouldn't say to anybody that I've tweeted out there that I wouldn't say in person. I just don't give a fuck. I wouldn't. There's nothing that bothers me in that sense.
Mate.
See, that's we're probably raised a little differently. Yeah, like, you know, maybe over here it's just a little bit different. You know, if you say something, you got to back it up or you take your licks. Like, that's just how we are. Like, you know, I mean, I work security. Like, it's shit. But, you know, you got to be able to back yourself, and that's it. Like, game on. If it's, you know, and they say you work in club nights and people offering you out. Where was your security for a start? That's the first thing running through my mind, because that's
no. I wasn't working in the club nights when this was going on, because that was before I became before I started promoting the nights. This was just where I was booked in for appearances and whatnot. So yeah, there was there's security there, but at the same time, like, I want to. On my perspective, I was there to do a job. I was there to, like, fulfill my appearance. But the guy in my mid-20s at the time, or early 20s even, wanted to go out and take advantage of the fact that I'm on television. Suddenly, there's a lot of girls that want to sleep with you. and I don't want to be behind this rope. I want to actually take a walk round. I want to go and see. I want to go and talk to these girls that came and had a photo of me. Like, I want to go and point them out and invite them into my VIP area and all that. So for me, I was part of I was part of, in a way, was part of the problem, but at the same time, it really shouldn't be a problem that I want to be a part of the night, that I want to invite people into my section, that I am there to work, but I want to stay more than the hour that I'm booked for. It's beneficial to the club, in fact, if I choose to stay, but for me to want to stay longer than the hour, I then want to socialise with the women that I liked, or that my friends, I want to bring those girls up, because I always did my appearances with a couple of mates or whatever. So once my work is done, then I want them people to come up. And obviously, in that sense, once I go walkabout, there's, a security guard isn't going to, it's not his responsibility to know where I am 24/7, apart from if I want to go to the toilet or whatnot. So yeah, I mean, there was that part of it where I didn't just go there and do what I was paid to do, but at the same time, that shouldn't be happening. And also, there were nights out that I went out on which weren't my books appearances, because I never got booked anywhere where I'd actually want to go out. So like when I wanted to go to Henley Regatta, which is like a thing that happens in my area, Henley Regatta, when I wanted to go out in Windsor, which is where I lived at the time, I didn't get any bookings in Windsor. Windsor doesn't book Big Brother people. Like Windsor's too above doing that. London clubs don't book Big Brother people either. So yeah, I might get a booking in Hull or Rotherham or Leeds or
Stevenage.
Yeah,
Stevenage.
They might be paying me to go there, but Windsor and London are not paying me. So they actually became the more dangerous sort of places to go. So right. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like it's essential to learn how to take care of yourself. But I mean, 22-year-old me probably couldn't do that much damage. And I'm not even saying that this version of me, can. But I'm pretty sure that face to face with a keyboard warrior, I'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure. Sure, you'd be fine.
And also, in saying that, even through going through IPW wrestling and whatnot, even to do that, I couldn't do that with my frame. Like, as my first appearance, I was very, very skinny when I worked with Rockstar Spud, because for me it was just a one-off that was done to help them out. But once they said, "Oh no, what would it cost for you to come and stay or whatever," and knowing that I already had loads of heat for how much I was paid for the beginning stuff I did, and there was a lot of guys that didn't like me, and Martin Stone was a guy that was mainly behind a lot of that. But for me to just be there and be accepted or whatever, there had to develop like an element of like toughness. I had to go and take bumps and volunteer myself to do certain things that I wasn't comfortable doing. But at the same time, doing them as a skinny 11-stone person, like with a 6'1" frame, wasn't healthy either. So you do things that like toughen you up as well. So I think if you can survive doing the British wrestling scene and putting yourself in there with a lot of guys that wanted to hurt you on purpose, which they did, then yeah, after that, I don't give a shit about anything now. After that, that's it's never going to get worse than that. It's never going to get worse than being in a ring where you're being paid more than the main event to be there, and everybody wants to hurt you, and then you still turn up for work. Like, it's never going to get worse than that.
Mate,
that's fun. Yeah, ironically, that's how we met. You probably obviously don't remember meeting me because I was probably a bit skinnier, curly hair, all that stuff, trying to look cool, whatever. But it was an IPW show in Kent or somewhere around that way.
All in Kent, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they were all in Kent. Yeah, and you were doing commentary for the night, except for the one part where you got into the ring, cut. It was like a one-line promo on the crowd, and they hated you for it. It was, what do you call a pretty girl in Kent or something like that? And you said a tourist, and that was it. You just set them off. You'd pissed off a whole crowd, and then some giant guy, green as fuck, choke slammed you. Didn't look like it helped you in the slightest. Like, it did look like it hurt. Like, either your selling's fantastic or whatever, but like, it looked like it hurt. And then afterwards, yeah, like, because we were there as a part of part of a seminar and all that sort of thing. We were there like helping out, like, you know, crap at the end. We were shooting some hoops, and it was the most random shit. Like, and I have to shout Cactus and G Money out there, you know, in our land, for because they were there with me at that time. And yeah, you were, you know, nice guy, and you know, there was no, you know.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't think it's not nice to just kind of say what you're thinking, and that comes across as being this, that, or the other, just to say what you think. Like, I've always said whatever I wanted to say. Like, sometimes you'll like ham it up, and sometimes you'll make a joke out of things or whatever. But actually, like, you know, but one to one, you know, if people meet me, as long as you're not a certain way. During Big Brother, it come a bit overwhelming because it's the same questions all the time, and also you were edited to look a certain way, which people thought you were, so you had your backup and whatnot straight away. But I mean, I'm not like, especially after this whole COVID thing, like, I've really like lost a lot of respect for Joe Public, that just generally by the way that went. Like, you heard people turning around and going, oh, I didn't get to, oh, you know, the government had a party, but I didn't get to bury my own granddad or whatever. Well, why? It's your fucking fault. Like, you know, you didn't have to listen. There's no way that I would have been put in that situation. So we learned really that a lot of people don't have a backbone. It's not a crime to have a backbone. It's not a crime to just say whatever you want to say. I understand that can be a financial issue for certain people. People in certain jobs will get cancelled. People can lose jobs or whatever. But I just think we have a lot of people that are just afraid to say whatever they like. And actually, one to one, like, if there's a situation where it's just a social situation or whatever, there'll be nothing like that from me. Like, I'm very, very easy to like get on with and whatever. In fact, like, sometimes like I don't really even say that much in social circles. I mean, in this situation now, I'm working. This is an interview. I know kind of, you know, what people. I kind of have to give what I know what people want me to say, but at the same time, like, I have to sort of, you know, make it clear why I'm here. Like, what is this guy? What does he do? What differentiates his content from every other guy that you guys are going to have on? Like, do you know what I mean? So it's clear that, like, you know, if I just sat here and answered questions like that, wouldn't come across. But you know, this is the thing. This is what my content is. I don't say things that everybody else says. I'm not Sap. I'm not Meltzer. You know, because if you get as soon as you turn around and say, "Oh, there's somebody that does," you know, there's somebody that does news as a wrestling journalist, or there's somebody that does wrestling news, immediately people will think, "Oh, he's going to be like this or whatever." No, it's not. It's not the case at all. In fact, as I said earlier, for me, it's just a hook to get people to listen to the other stuff that we talk about, or like you said, with the star rating thing that you brought up, or whatever it is that we talk about. I like to think of myself as a representative for the opposing side of the community, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create this alternative community, which is ridiculous because the alternative community is just what the community was, you know, 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. Like the community has now become this kind of super sensitive, super inclusive community. And that's the thing. I don't mind about everybody being, you know, about everybody being inclusive because everybody can watch, but it's like we're shoving all in inclusiveness down people's throats. Like, there's a lot of people that got pushes and title reigns in wrestling that didn't deserve it because we're doing this. The whole like thing with women's wrestling, that is included in it because we're seeing far too much of that. We're seeing far too many people that don't warrant the airtime that they're getting. Like, I don't think there's nothing wrong with a woman being a valet or it being in a managerial role. I think that you can do. Look, Anna Jay isn't on AEW television. If two guys are fighting over who bangs Anna Jay, like, for me, that's a good storyline and that's a good use of Anna Jay. We're just not doing that at the moment. Instead, we're trying to be super inclusive, super woke, all that kind of shit. I'm not about that at all. Like, there's a type of wrestling that I want to see, and at the moment, I'm not really getting it anywhere. So I think that's the kind of voice I want to be in the community. But, you know, talking about the wrestling thing, like, those promos and that were completely ad-libbed. Like, I said whatever I wanted to say from the very first day that I picked up the mic, that I was head and shoulders above the other people in British wrestling. And that, for me, the problem with British wrestling is the problem that AEW have now, and the problem that just is there throughout wrestling. All the guys there, you know, your Spuds, not so much Spud actually. Don't take that one out. Your Zack Sabres Juniors and the guys that were there, everybody, all the way back in 2007, 2008, were already focused on trying to have like the best match all the time or whatever. But the fact is that I could go out there and get a bigger crowd response by not doing anything at all, by like, you know, by powdering and just doing bullshit out there. Like more people hated me than any of the other heels. And obviously there's that sense that if you go to a British show, you're that indie wrestling fan and I'm not entitled to be there. Yeah, of course I'm not arrogant. I'm not that arrogant where I don't think there's an element of that, where I think there's genuine hate, where there's people that just straight away are going to go, oh, you shouldn't be here. We just don't want to see you. I know that. I know that there's people there, but you can just play off that. You can get even more hate than you already had by telling them that you don't want to be there, by telling them that you're there for the money, by telling like Martin Stone got really offended by the fact that I was cutting it in promo for weeks, that I was getting more money than him when he was the champion, so I may as well have the belt anyway, and all this kind of shit. The guys who really get like offended by that shit that I'm just doing to try and get heat. And it's so weird because they're the wrestlers and I'm the outsider.
They should know it's a work. They should know it's a fucking work.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like from the minute it was like I had a better understanding in the business. And obviously I heard from a few of my friends like LT Summers, Andy Boy Simmons, and it was a case of, oh, you know, it's about, you know, I'm totally good. I'm totally fine with the things that you're saying, but you know, some guys have a problem with it. Fuck them. He goes, but you know, the other things you've got to do is you've got to come in and shake everybody's hand and ask how they're doing and all that. It's fine. It's like, I'll do it. It seems really stupid and unnecessary, but I'll do it if it's tradition. But it's also you telling me to do this 6 months after I've been here. Like 6 months after me realizing that I've got heat. 6 months after realizing that there's heat on me because Dan Edler's booked me in a hotel, and the other 5 guys on the other guys are sharing. There's 5 guys in a hotel room, or somebody actually lives in Portsmouth, and 8 people are going to the house, and whatever. Or this girl who's on the show has to sleep with, you know, in the same house as 8 guys, or whatever, you know, and all these, you know, weird controversies that have come around now with Marty's girl and all that. And I can see how they happen because, you know, you put women in these situations because the finances are not there, but I'm using up a certain percentage of the finances because A, I've already negotiated my pay, and B, they've already put me in a hotel because I've got heat and they feel that they need to put me up in a hotel. So all of this kind of shit that you have to deal with. But at the end of the day, like when it came down to doing the show, like my job's there to cut a promo. And sometimes when I was working a match, which I didn't do for long, it was very much a case of me trying to distract a referee and my hated hero guys coming in and beating up people or whatever. Again, that's not how I wanted to do things. I offered to do wrestling training. When I did do training, like, you know, I took to it, it was all going fine and whatever. And I dare say, like, if I knew with the way I was cutting promos at the time, if I knew that at 6'1" and 11 stone, or, you know, I'm now like 13 and a half, but, you know, if I knew that this size would be above average in wrestling at the moment, if I knew someone like Adam Cole was going to do it, right, maybe I would have like taken it a lot more seriously. Maybe I would have just been there and said, I'm not just there to help you. And the other thing is even though I was getting I can tell you now, I was getting £250 for an appearance, right, which is double what the main event was getting.
Yeah, there'll be guys on the show getting 30, 40 quid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though I was getting 250 was a quarter of my lowest appearance fee. So I would do student nights, like a pop in on a student night. If I sat there and did a thing where I played, like where I took the mic and played game. So if they booked me with you booked me with a girl on appearance, and it'd be girls versus boys, and we play a game in a nightclub where I would ask the boys team go and get me a pair of girls' underwear. You've got to go out there and snog a girl. So that'd be me versus her. And she'd have the girls and I'd have the boys. And I'd have the boys and they first one to go and snog a girl. Her one would be first one to go and snog a boy. First one to go and get an item of underwear. First one to go and steal a pint, bring it on the stage and down it. So we do this game, girls.
I swear you did that at my uni. I went to University of Hertfordshire. I swear you must have done that.
Yeah, probably did. Like, and that's the thing. Like, if I was proper working, that would be a £1,500 appearance. If I was just popping in and just being like just appearing at the club, I'd get £1,000 for that. To get the shit kicked out of me on an IPW show is getting 250 quid in a hotel. So these guys thought they was getting stitched up, I was the one that turned around and said, whatever it takes to help you. Like, I've already put you on Channel 4 in front of 7.5 million people. Like, I put British wrestling on there. Yeah. These guys, you'd think they'd have the business sense to think that, oh, this might be helping us. Like, him versus Spud on Channel 4, IPW being mentioned, it might be helping all of us. No, that was the problem with British wrestling. Like, they just didn't understand. There was no big picture there at all.
There were marks for themselves. They're marks for themselves, basically. They took it too seriously.
And that's and that's the other thing. Like, and it was weird because when Nick Aldis coming from Gladiators, he didn't get the same treatment at all. Gladiators was nowhere near as watched as Big Brother, and obviously just because he'd done the wrestling training, and just because he'd gone from wrestling to Gladiators rather than from Gladiators to wrestling, there was a whole different way that he was treated. And Nick didn't like go in there and do the whole shake everyone's hand thing and stay in a little room with them all, and he'd have his own hotel and stuff. Me and Nick would have the same stuff. But yeah, it was very much like a snobbery like towards it. But I mean, I could talk a lot more about it.
Man, we'll do a 1P because, like I say, we were watching it around that time. You know what I mean? We're obviously in the UK. We went to a load of shows. So we will, if we can, grab you at another time. There's just one more question I wanted to ask you. Right? I know you're going to Nashville for this Starcast thing.
Yeah.
I actually reckon that I don't know if they've announced Ric Flair's actual opponent yet. But I reckon it's going to be Jay Lethal because all the controversy with, he's not got a spot on the show. And Rick mentioned it a couple of times on the actual hour-long thing that had Jeff Jarrett on there and all that kind of thing. He actually said, Jay's a bit pissed off with me like at the minute. So that's my prediction. So I just wanted to...
They've been like training together anyway. So
yes.
They would have the match. I thought that anyway. I thought if it wasn't him, he would be involved in a tag match of some sort anyway. So, yeah, I mean, Jay Lethal will be involved because most of the stuff that Flair's been doing has been with him anyway. So it makes sense. They're not going to leave anything to chance here. I know Ric Flair's very much like a call it in the ring guy. I mean, you know the story. Like, you're guys, Flair calls it in the ring, and Randy Savage did the notepad thing. And
yeah.
And they're always seen as the two complete opposites in wrestling in terms of how you do it. And Ricky Steamboat was seen as the guy who could do both, who's had great matches with both of them. So when Flair and Savage meshed, it was very much a case of Flair's complete the opposite, and Savage was the one who wrote down every bullet point. If you hear the story about the WrestleMania 3 match with Steamboat, it's like 56, like Steamboat says, he gave me 56. He had 56 points to go 12 minutes. So, yeah, I think despite the fact that it's contradictory to Flair's style, I just don't think he's going to call this one in the ring. Not entirely. I just don't think you can. There's too many criticisms of it happening, and he needs to make people look wrong for doing it.
Well, we want to thank you so much for coming on. We hope you have a fucking great time in Nashville. And, we just want to thank you as well for it's nice to hear an English voice talking about wrestling with American guys when you're on there with Disco and you're on there with Conan and when you're just doing your thing with Cav. It's just nice just to hear an English voice talking fucking sense. So thank you, man, for that.
That's the problem. That's a lot of the English guys I hear. They use them on their post-wrestling podcast and very much portrayed as like these wrestling geeks. And as I said, like, I don't have an issue with the geek side of thing where, you know, it can be geeky can perceived as being into DC or Marvel or collecting action figures or even collecting any kind of memorabilia. That's fine.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, we're really perceived as like geeks and weaklings and losers and just, you know, just like, oh, who can't beat up a British guy or do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We're looked at like really like as the bottom of the barrel in terms of status, and some of the people out there representing us are not doing us any favors. So yeah,
Jesus
I
Christ,
don't want to.
You're right, man. You're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, thanks a lot, man. Like I say, we know you're a busy guy, you've got fucking so much stuff going on, but we would love to grab you on here another time to talk about loads of other shit. So it's been a fucking pleasure, dude.
Yeah, I go away for a long time on the 24th of July. I'm away for nearly a month because I'm going to MSG for Raw. Then I'm going to SummerSlam and Starcast. And then after that, I start a proper holiday in Orlando. So I've got all the wrestling stuff to do. Sweet. And then after that, I have 3 weeks in Orlando. So if you can catch me before the 24th of July, we can talk about what SummerSlam looks like if you want.
That'd be incredible, perfect, mate. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Billy, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. We are thrilled that you decided to join us with this. My man, take care, and we will catch you soon.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on. Cheers.
Take care.
Cheers.
All right. So that was Billy. Thank you so much to Billy for coming on. That was something, wasn't it?
I mean, it's exactly what we thought it would be. Just Billy, he's like us in very many ways, and I think that is partly because we're English as well. We've got that kind of no nonsense. I mean, not everyone English who's like that, but I think from where we are age wise as well, where we live, you know, colloquially, I think we're very similar in the way that we look at stuff, and it is what it is. We tell it how it is. We're not really bothered if you take it one way or the other. And that's why it was great to have Billy on, because he doesn't mince his words. He just says it how it is. And if people don't like it, it's like, oh, well, fuck it. I don't care.
Yeah. As we thank Billy, we should remind everyone that you can catch his betting, his betting site is lockbetting.com. You can see, you know, all of his tips and stuff. I think it's for a price. It is
yeah, I mean, I think
he did mention it.
He said that they're on a winning streak. Basically, they haven't lost money for X amount of years now, where, you know, if you subscribe to him, if you're a member of his Patreon, you get the tips and stuff. They literally haven't lost money for years. So you want to get on there. It's lockbetting.com. You can also, we'll leave the link in the description.
Yeah, of course.
You know, so you can catch him on Wrestling Informer. You can catch him on Keeping It 100 with Conan and Disco Inferno. It's fucking crazy because, you know, Billy was on, I remember watching him on Big Brother. I remember seeing him. He came to my uni, I'm almost certain, and I was a mature student. So I wasn't one of these 18, 19-year-olds when I was at university. I was
35.
like, yeah, no, I was old, you know, you know, so it's weird because, you know, and also at 1PW, you met Billy there, played at shooting some hoots with him.
IPW, not 1PW.
IPW, sorry, IPW. Oh yeah, because he was talking about Dan, wasn't he? And he was talking. Yeah.
He did mention that name, and that is
another controversy. And he did mention it too. He said, you know, and some shit went down, and he knows how that could possibly happen with the way that it was all set up. You know,
it was a very quick insight into how that was run, and as to how possibly some of those things could have occurred.
Yeah,
which isn't cool.
No,
but we can't thank Billy enough for coming on, because, you know, we are who we are, and we're just a couple of J bros doing our thing. And now to the important bit. Because we have a big thank you. We have crossed a line
We have crossed the line.
Like
It's
they did
not,
in TNA.
yeah, well, it's not one of Tony Khan's lines that we've
No.
crossed. It is, yeah, not TNA crossed the line. It is, we have hit that magical number of 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we want to thank every single one of you fuckers for hitting the bell, slapping the bell.
Oh,
We
yes.
told you to do it, and you fucking did it. You came through, god damn it, and you done us proud.
We cannot be more thankful. We did break 1,000. Holy shit! Yeah, we were buzzing when we saw that, and long may it continue. Let's push on. Let's keep going. Let's get more.
We're going to keep
Let's
pushing.
Keep going.
You know,
we've got more content for you.
Once you got the first inch in, you can just keep pushing. You know what I mean? That's just that getting the tip in. You're all right. So we've got the tip in. We're at 1,000, and also, dude, we are going to have to honor our word, and we are going to be,
yeah, good word.
We're going to be creating a Chat Grapple and Cheap Pops podcast gift pack.
Goodie bag.
We've got buttons.
Yeah,
we've got fucking, you know, we've got shit here that we can, you know, we've got wrestling cards. We've got packs of, you know, mate, I'll tell you what, look. All right, there's stuff just everywhere. There's bits
DVDs, like
DVDs, bits and bobs. You know, someone is going to be the recipient of some bits and bobs.
A Chat Grapple goodie bag.
And we are extremely excited. We are very happy.
So happy.
And fuck, geez, we've just had Billi Bhatti on, mate, who is just left us now to go and do a podcast with Conan, and
we've barely had time to gather our thoughts after having Glacier on.
Yeah,
and here we are with Billy, and yeah, it's we move again. We will endeavor to get something out again soon.
Well, I mean, hopefully we can get Billy back on before he goes away on his his holidays, and before he goes to Nashville. And as soon as I say, I reckon Jay Lethal is going to be Ric Flair's partner. I think it's pretty obvious because they've been training together, and it's like a tag team that's working together, and then they create the split, and then they have the match.
Yes,
classic booking.
It is. It almost is classic booking.
It's classic booking, bruv. You know what I mean? So I went a bit high then. I went all Tony Khan. No, from tonight.
Yeah, you can start stomping your feet and shouting at me.
Yeah, mate. I went all weird, bruv.
But if you have seen our Instagram, you will have seen that Chris was a recipient of one of Tony's special hugs. As was
he touched me in my special place, and I didn't like it.
As was our boy Cactus. They were all getting the special hugs from Tony. The parsnips were buttered fully, I believe, after they were in your forbidden door.
Mate, after I put my parsnip in his forbidden door, it was powdered, not buttered, as with Tony. He loves his powder. But it's we love what we do. We love just being honest about shit, and we are not one of these. I mean, we're gonna try and meet Billy in Wales in September. We'll try and meet him up on the Friday night for a few bevies, for a ginger beer.
Oh yeah, we can try and hook something up for sure.
We're not one of these people that do this to get clout or to get recognition or to be in those circle jerks, to just put certain people over or whatever. We have had on this show, and this is like it's a thought-provoking moment, because you talk about as well. I mean, obviously me and Jordan are boys and we chat fucking dip on Messenger and all that, and when we're chatting and stuff, it's really nice to know that our channel that we've built here is organically grown, bro. These parsnips are organically buttered. You know what I mean? We have not, we haven't fucking bought views or bought subscribers or tried to, do anything to kind of artificially bulk up anything. And, you know, we have never, despite what people might fucking say, we have never paid for one guest on this show. Not once. Not from the first interview, Santino Marella, you know, down to Billy, you know, not one single interview have they ever asked us for a penny, and we were extremely grateful for that. So
yeah, we've
not bought this channel. It has been paid for with our blood, sweat, tears, and a little bit of jizz, and just a little smidgen of spunk.
Just a drop.
And it has also been built by the viewers and the subscribers. So again, we are going to be putting a little package together, and we're going to be sending it to one lucky subscriber, just as a little thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, we say keep watching, keep subscribing, keep liking, keep commenting, especially.
But we're not going quite yet, Jordan,
no.
Because we've got to give thanks and props to one more group of individuals, and that is Surfshark.
Oh yes, of course.
We can't forget the old, you know, Surfshark boy. You know, that's the fishing line, because Surfshark said so.
We're gonna we're gonna hook him in.
We're gonna hook him in. We're reeling him in, bro. So Surfshark VPN service, wherever you are in the world, you can be wherever you want to be. You can have it on any device, and it gives you online security from your internet service provider. No one needs to know what you're doing, what you're watching. You know, if you're streaming certain things that you should, or let me just rephrase that. If you would like to watch things, but you don't really want to pay money to watch something, there are certain sites you can go to, and you are protected with Surfshark.
Yes.
You can watch
with
different
antivirus
countries.
As well.
You get it on all of your devices, and a special deal. If you go into the description and you click the link, you go to surfshark.com/chatgrapple or whatever the bloody link is. Use our promo code grapple, but the link's in the description. No one remembers fucking, I'm going to type in. Blah, 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 blah. No, click the link, mate. It's called a hyperlink. It's 2022, bitches.
Click the ting.
Click the ting, mate. So touch the link, use our promo code grapple, and you will get, what is it? 3 free months, and you get 83% off, bro.
That's right.
Come on.
Yeah, too easy.
You're a dickhead if you don't do it. Yeah. So we want to give something back. Like we say, we ain't got no Patreon, we ain't got no paywall. We don't want your money, we want YouTube's money, but also we get a little bit of a helping hand from Surfshark. So we're going to give that back to you. We want to literally share the love. So you help us, we help you, everybody's happy, and everyone can be smiling.
Couldn't have put it better myself. So with that, we say thank you. Keep clicking, keep enjoying, keep watching, keep chatting to us, because we get back to you. We really do. We want to try and get back to everyone. Thank you so much. I'm JB. With me, the best Chris in all the wrestling podcast, Mr. Chris Dredd.
Bang, bang.
We say take care, and we will see you soon.